So, all right, so now we're in a new room.
Same location, new room.
Smaller room.
Smaller.
Because the other room was very echoey.
And also right outside of basement bathrooms in a downtown location. And characters.
Yeah. God, I wish we could just find a room that had proper, soundproofing. Everything downtown is, made of stone and concrete.
It's an old town. I mean, it was set up before the Civil War. Battles took place here.
Oh my gosh.
You know, Wild Bill Hickok? Or the other? Yeah, I think it was Wild Bill Hickok. Famously shot someone across the square.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
It's the longest actually historically recorded Old West duel.
No kidding.
Yep.
Wow.
So, a lot of people would tell you that, people stepping out of the saloon and having a duel in the street, that's not really how the Wild West was. But one actually took place on our square.
Springfield.
Yeah. For real. Hey, Mike.
Yeah?
What do you call a fake noodle?
Fake noodle. Oh, I know this one.
Oh, at least let me do the accent.
I don't know, Chad. What do you call a fake noodle?
It's an imposter.
I did like that one. I think I actually told my kids that one time, and I think they rolled their eyes. I told my oldest daughter the joke from last week.
I told my wife.
And she's just like...
Same reaction.
The response I got was just devastating. I was
hatred and vitriol.
I was just like, you have no respect for the dad joke.
Since you had already heard that one, I'll hit you with another one.
All right.
I wouldn't buy anything with Velcro. You want to know why? It's
No.
a total ripoff.
Now that's a good one.
That's a dad joke.
That's a good one.
There you go.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Lunchtime Tech Talk. I'm Chad.
And I'm Mike.
So, today's episode, I'm not going to reveal the topic yet. I'll do it on the other side of the music.
Okay.
But it's centralized around one question.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that.
Let's do it.
So, Mike, the question I want to ask today is, what is a VPN, and am I stupid for not having one? And the reason that that's the question is because I've been hearing a lot of advertisements and stuff for NordVPN on a lot of the podcasts that I listen to.
Okay.
And, at some point in our lifetimes, nobody had virus protection on their computer. And then at some point it was stupid if you didn't, and then now everyone has it. Mm-hmm. That's a yearly cost that comes around because you have to have virus protection. But at what point, if we're not already there, at what point do we have to cross over to okay, you're kind of silly if you're not using one?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
these are good questions.
I thought so.
Yeah. What's funny about the whole, you brought up virus protection.
Right.
Kind of get on that real quick. I don't use one.
Because you have an Apple.
No, I just wouldn't use one, period. Just me personally. I think there's a lot of things that you can do as a user to be a smarter user to help prevent from getting viruses. I also have this suspicion that the virus companies are out there conveniently knowing what viruses are there, and I don't know, they just, to me, is putting something on my system that is going to inherently slow it down. I almost see a virus protector as a virus itself. Now, not everybody's going to agree with me on this, but some people will, that you are putting something on your system that's supposed to go deep down into all of your files and investigate it and run.
Sure.
Well, that's a process that's running in the background, and I do think that there's a time and a place for them. But I think most people with personal computers can just do smart things like don't click on weird emails.
Sure.
All this stuff that all the companies nowadays are educating people on.
Well, so that's a good point, because John McAfee, kind of the OG original creator of antivirus software, McAfee, is a known criminal and grifter and totally probably doesn't have your best interest at heart. Which I know he's not still the one writing the code, but the place where it started was sort of in a ruse and a hoax. And so...
Yeah, I think you're better off having things like firewalls and, possibly a VPN, but just doing smart things.
Sure.
To just don't go to weird websites. Don't do weird things. But anyways, that's an antivirus thing. I don't use one primarily because I have a Mac, and Macs are less vulnerable. Right. They are not invulnerable. They are less vulnerable because there's less people writing. That sounds so weird. There's less people that are going to be writing for those because they're not on servers and stuff like that, where Windows are on servers and they can pass through there. I would assume easier. I don't write viruses.
Macs are not the heartbeat of the business world.
Exactly.
And so
exactly.
You're gonna write your code to get the biggest bang for your buck.
Yep.
And so they're just not aimed at.
But a VPN, you were asking about that. And what I thought was kind of interesting about that was my dad asked me about it not too long ago. You're like, great. When parents are asking about it, yeah. No, what's interesting about that is that it seems to be, whenever I heard you ask about it and my dad ask about it, it's becoming...
It's in the zeitgeist.
Yeah. It's like normalcy now. People are becoming curious about it. What is this thing I keep hearing about?
We can start with, what is this thing? A
virtual private network.
Yes.
Yes, that's what VPN stands for. By no means am I an expert on this, but I can kind of give you some pros and cons.
You can give me more than what the podcast advertisement gives me.
Yeah, here's the deal. Whenever you have a VPN, it's essentially going to be masking your information.
Right. Like
your IP address and information that you have on your computer. It's going to be masking it. So why would you want a VPN? I think is the main question that a lot of people have to answer. And some of the more common reasons are you travel.
Sure.
And you have Netflix, or you have Hulu, or you have some service that you subscribe to in your country. But whenever you go over to another country and you're not in that country's network,
right,
you are now going to be more than likely geo-locked out of that product that you have.
Right.
Here's an interesting one. I was on Netflix. Whenever we were in Canada, there was a movie on there, and I was like, oh, hey, this movie's on here. I was like, I had never seen this movie before. I was like, that's cool. I want to watch that. So I saved it. Luckily, I did the download thing because I knew that I was going to want to watch it on the plane back. Well, we got back to the United States a few days later, drove back, and I was going through there, and I was like, where's this movie? I was like, what is going on? Well, turned out it was geolocation determined whether I got it. And when I was in Canada, it was allowed. When I was in the U.S., that movie wasn't allowed on the U.S. Netflix.
Right.
And so, but luckily I had downloaded it, and apparently it saves just fine. And of course, with those downloads, I think they only stay for a couple days. So I watched it, got to watch the movie. But if you have a VPN, and say I went to Canada, and I wanted to be able to watch a show that I watch in the U.S., but I couldn't. You could essentially get on a VPN and spoof the network and make it think that you're actually in the United States.
Or vice versa.
Yes.
You could stay at your house and watch the Canada Netflix.
Exactly. Yeah. And there's other big benefits to it too, is you can, if you know you're going to be purchasing something from an overseas company, you can do a VPN, and act like you're from their country, and sometimes it's cheaper. Even though you're shipping it to the United States, sometimes it's cheaper because their pricing is going to be different than what they would put on their U.S. site.
So I've heard people say that they use their VPN when they're trying to buy plane tickets.
Yep, travel.
Let's just for ease say you're flying from LAX to JFK, cross country. If you look for that flight from Missouri, you'll get one price. If you look for that flight from England, even though it's still the same two airports, if you look for it from England, you might get a different price. And it's just
they're changing their prices based off of where you're getting onto the internet from.
Yeah, and that's crazy.
Yeah. Now, you do have to be kind of careful with the VPN providers that you go with. Because you got to remember, whenever you're VPN, you are essentially tunneling everything through somebody else's servers. So, for instance, right now, if I'm at home, all my stuff is running through AT&T. So all of it's running through the AT&T servers, right? So I already know that it's going through AT&T.
Right.
AT&T is a big corporation, whether you trust them or not. They are the provider of my internet, and I have no choice.
You've got to run it through someone.
I do. So I know that I have to do that, but these VPN providers, they can be small businesses, they can be big businesses. You gotta be careful, because I would just do your research on one that you might like and see what the reviews are and see how long they've been around. Because essentially the company should want to grow their company, right?
Right.
I don't think there's a lot of VPN companies out there that are just trying to get your information and basically data mine you. But all of your information is going to be running through there.
Right.
They're going to be masking it. They're going to be encrypting it. But it's going to be funneling through their servers before it gets to the other servers.
Gotcha.
So you got to be a little bit careful with them. But there are those benefits of being able to put your IP address or put your location in other places to be able to use your services, and also be able to do some shopping and maybe get some better prices. And it's encrypted. So your data is encrypted, which is really good. You probably have heard of like end-to-end encryption is a term that a lot of people are using nowadays with like messaging services.
Yeah.
So for instance, iMessage is end-to-end encrypted. So basically it's scrambled data between one device to the next. And so people who are intercepting it can't really figure out what that is unless they have a key.
Is that another thing that these green bubbles are messing up for me?
The SMS is not encrypted, and that's the big thing. We can get on another rant about the new SMS version of text messaging that is on its way in, which will act more like iMessage, but it's still not end-to-end encrypted.
Gotcha.
It's kind of weird, but that's the big benefit of like a VPN is that you get that encryption. So you're not exposing your IP address to anybody else. Now, what are some of the cons of this? So we already know that there are those benefits, but there are some cons.
Okay.
Depending on your VPN provider, the connection could be very slow.
Oh.
So let's say you get 100 megs down. It's quick, right? You get on your VPN, there's a potential you might only get like 5. I mean, it can, because it's trying to encrypt everything, you're basically running through, so you basically put a, kind of like a protective layer around all of your stuff, and it's got to do all this stuff to basically get to where you want to go.
So if we think of it in terms of like a water pipe, if you're able to run 100 gallons a minute through your pipe, and then you want to reinforce the walls of your pipe. In this case, instead of reinforcing the outside, you're reinforcing the inside, making the diameter smaller. And so you just can't push as much volume through.
Yeah, that's a good way to think of it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're definitely putting something in the way of where you want to go.
Okay.
It's like it's almost like a TSA check.
Oh, snap.
Like, you have...
I gotta take my shoes off now.
Yeah. It takes you a little longer to get to your plane. You're gonna get there. But it's going to take you a little
And it's
longer.
considered safer.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're with a good company.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's one of the cons. The other thing is that the Netflix thing, Netflix is constantly battling that, apparently. I didn't know this, but they're constantly battling how to prevent people from VPNing because they don't want that, because then I guess that puts them under some type of contract issue with the movie companies that, hey, these people are actually in the US, but they're streaming as if they're in Hungary or France or Canada, and they're watching these shows that they shouldn't. Because, I mean, essentially, you could get things like BBC America.
Right.
That's right. Is that right? Or is it, what's it called over there? It's not, is it BBC?
It's just BBC.
Is it BBC? That's right. That makes sense. So you could get BBC over VPN.
Right.
Like if whatever shows they stream, well, you're in the US, you're not paying in for that service. So if you knew how to do it, you could spoof it and say, hey, my stuff's over there. But there's a lot of companies that are trying to prevent that from happening. So you get some good companies, and there's a couple of companies, and I'll list them here later, that actually a few articles said were pretty good at being ahead of the game from these companies. So that would that would be somebody who you'd want to go with if that's what you're wanting to do. Another con is, if depending on how reliable the VPN is, your connection can drop because you've got that extra
like a call.
layer. Yeah, it could just drop. Now, if it's dropping all the time, that's just a nuisance. You don't want that to happen.
Right.
But if it's dropping because you're wanting to protect your identity, so you're using a VPN because you want to mask your IP address or mask your information. The downfall is some of these VPN providers basically won't have a kill switch. And when that VPN drops, your IP address is instantly exposed.
Oh.
So if you're doing something where you're really wanting to mask your information, which I personally don't see a real need for this kill switch for something I'm doing, but if you're
a freedom fighter in China that is wanting to protest against the government,
you probably don't want your IP address exposed. So
right.
You would want a kill switch on your VPN provider. And basically what a kill switch does is I don't know if it's a delay, but that's probably the best way to describe it, is the second that internet connection is dropped, your connection has already been dropped. Like you are disconnected fully. Like it almost goes through hey, I lost my connection, drop. And all of your information is safe with the kill switch. Without it drops and your IP address is exposed. And if you're doing something like freedom fighting, then you could get tracked down.
Sure.
So the other thing is that, and this is getting better based off of the actual providers, is they can be kind of difficult to configure. But if you go with one that I have heard of, but I haven't heard of in a while, is Tunnel Bear. They were supposed to be really easy to use, and it's one that you could use on your phone and all kinds of stuff. And it was just like a paid service, and they would provide a VPN. And you mentioned one earlier that you were hearing on a podcast. What was that one?
Nord.
Yeah. So, I mean,
and that's the same thing. You can use that one on your phone and stuff too.
And Nord, from what I've read, is supposed to be one of the faster ones out there. So I would say, actually, that's one that is listed on this article that I read about how they keep ahead of Netflix.
Okay.
So I imagine Nord's pretty good. So Nord, if you want to sponsor us, feel free.
Right.
No, but they're kind of one of the cutting edge ones. But there's different levels that you can get. Like there's the Nord one, which is going to be probably more of a business type, personal use one. I imagine they have even higher layers, but there's another one out there that's ExpressVPN, which is going to be like a military grade quality. I don't know how much the prices are on them, but then there's other ones. God, why would people name their company this? There's one called Hide My Ass. It's a terrible name, but whatever.
Hey, what's your VPN though? It hides my ass.
Yeah. So that one is actually, supposedly, it's got a lot of locations, 190 plus locations that you can actually use your VPN through. So
well, I think there's only like 200 countries, so that's pretty much full coverage of the Earth.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they don't cover Antarctica.
Who knows?
Who knows?
I have no idea.
I want Netflix from Antarctica. I want to see what the penguins are watching.
But yeah, those are kind of like the pros and cons of a VPN.
Okay.
You kind of just have to determine, what am I wanting this for? Do I want this for privacy? Why do I want it for privacy? Do I feel like I'm doing something that I need my identity protected? Or are you just somebody who has been hacked before and you don't want to go through that?
Yeah.
And are you willing to sacrifice some of the inconveniences, the speed possibility, the connection drop, the possibility that what you're using, like Netflix or Hulu, might get ahead of that VPN provider and you might not be able to use your services?
Sure.
So
I would say if the only reason that you're using a VPN is to see what Netflix is like in Europe, then you're probably using it wrong.
Probably. Yeah, I mean...
And it may not be worth whatever you're paying for it, but yeah, if that's just one of the many things that you do on there, and then all of a sudden it's not ahead of Netflix anymore, and you lose that, like, okay, well, you lost that, but you've still got everything else that it does for you.
Right.
So, well, that's cool.
You might use one for, like, if you're going into a coffee shop and you don't have your own, like, hotspot.
Right.
You might be on a VPN then, because if you're on a public access Wi-Fi, you're going to be exposing some stuff, and the VPN would probably protect you.
Yeah, so I actually did that 2 weeks ago when I was doing the podcast notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to get out of the house for a minute, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And so it was actually my wife's suggestion. She was like, why don't you go down to this little small town business in Nixa and do your stuff there? And I was like, okay. And yeah, as soon as I logged on, I forgot what banner ads can look like.
Yeah, because you're so used to it.
Because I'm used to being on internet at work and at my home where I have fairly locked down.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my.
Ads everywhere.
Ads everywhere.
Some websites are disgusting with ads.
And yeah. Touching at my delicate sensibilities. I wanted to just tell you about something that I heard on a podcast this week.
All right.
And I kind of knew a little bit about it already, but I didn't know the why, right? So if we're talking about stock exchanges, there are day traders who are literally trading on maybe hundredths of a penny per stock difference, but when you multiply it by 10,000 stocks or shares of a stock, then they're making all this money, right? Well, I found out that so there was a guy from Canada who hey, let me tell you about that. He was trading on the desk of Royal Bank of Canada.
Okay.
So, all the investment banks have traders, and they're out there to make money for the bank. Mm-hmm. But he said he started noticing that he had this direct connection to the stock exchange. Mm-hmm. And if he saw that there were 10,000 shares of something available, he could just click a button and buy those 10,000 shares. Well, what he started noticing was that he would click the button, and instead of getting all 10,000, he might get 8,000. And then a little more time goes by, and now he's only getting 6,000. And so he starts looking into, why am I only getting 60% of what I see is available? Because my connection's supposed to be instant. Right? Well, what had happened was his connection was like 39 milliseconds. And what people were doing is they were buying space within the building of the stock exchange with the shortest cable possible and getting it down to like 8 milliseconds. right? So what they were actually doing is not trading on any of the information that they know. They're not making good investments based on research that they've done.
Yeah.
What they're doing is seeing that an order for 10,000 comes through, and in the gap of time that they have, they're buying as much as they can, and then trying to sell it to the person who wanted it in the first place for just that slight uptick of cost.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I'm seeing that you want to buy 10,000. I'm trying to buy as much as I can afford.
Yeah.
And then hoping you still want 10,000 and you'll just click the button again.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's good.
And so...
Oh man, that's so crazy. That's got to be so
Is
fast.
it shady?
Oh, it's very
It's super shady, right? It's not moral.
I mean, your intent is to manipulate a purchase that has already been initiated.
Yeah.
But you're using technology
because
to do
you're
it.
a little bit faster. So the guy who traded for RBC, for Royal Bank of Canada, hired the guy who was setting up these super short networks to come work for him for $1 million a year. They figured out the how and the why and what all this was. Because the guy who was setting the stuff up didn't really know what they were doing, just knew that if he increased their speed, they paid him a lot of money.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And so he hires him over, he figures out what's really going on, and then together they leave Royal Bank of Canada to set up their own stock exchange. And what I think it was called IEX, but what it's supposed to be is a fair stock exchange.
Yeah.
So every person runs through what they call the shoebox. They have 39 miles of cable coiled up in a box.
Yeah.
And everyone's connection has to be at least this 39 miles. And so it's supposed to even out the trading. And he said, now I can see 10,000 and I can buy 10,000 again.
All because of cable length.
All because of cable length. So...
You're manipulating like light speed at that point.
Yes. It's not fair. And it's a weird instance where, because the New York Stock Exchange is who is selling like basically rack space. And it's to the point where they're making more money on that than they're making on like whatever their actual business is. And so it's just kind of a weird spot where like the referee of the system is now getting paid by one side of the game.
It should be fair across the board. If you can't be in the location in the modern day, you should be able to be in California or England or wherever, I don't know. And you should be able to purchase this thing at what you see on your screen.
Right.
That's crazy that I wonder how they came up with the 39 miles. Is that what you said? 39 miles. I wonder if there was like...
He kept saying cable, but I don't know if it's fiber or copper or what.
I would assume it would be like fiber. I would assume
it's fiber too, yeah.
But man, I wonder how they came up with the 39 miles. Like, I wonder if there's just like, that's like the equalizer. Like, once you get to 39 miles, it's okay.
I think they were probably trying to get to a certain number of milliseconds.
Yeah. And that's
39 miles happens to be that number, yeah.
Light travels way too quick.
Way too quick. But yeah, so the guy who set up the systems initially, his first customer was someone from Kansas City. And he said, he's the one who told that guy that, hey, this is what my connection time is.
Yeah.
And like I said, 39 or 40 something milliseconds.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, I don't even know what a millisecond is, but I think I can help this guy. And so he finds the space for him and runs the cable and gets his connection. And so now he's doing like a remote connection thing from Kansas City to a spot in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And the guy calls him back a couple weeks later and he says, I've already made back what I paid you to do this. In a couple of weeks.
What?
An extra profit because he was
able to get his bid or whatever purchase out there faster.
Yep. And so, you know, good news travels fast. Now this guy's setting them up for all kinds of people. And so these people are not called... So they're called high-volume day traders.
Yeah.
So they're not worried about, you know, okay, I think something big's going to happen today with this one company, so I'm going to buy in the morning and sell in the afternoon or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, they're just trying to move as many thousandths of a penny across their desk as they can in a day.
Move and dink, goes up, sell it.
Yeah.
They're done.
Yeah. And so when you're talking about fractions of a penny, but on 10,000 shares, and you're doing that all day long, and it's all set up systematic. Mm-hmm. You know, they've got their ranges set in their computer or whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's just executing as, you know, as quick as possible.
Oh, there's some smart people out there.
There are. And that's, yeah.
Well, that was a fun little fact.
Yeah. Crazy tech. New or old, informing you has been our goal. Crazy tech on the pod, ending some way else would feel so odd.
Wow, that was really long.
That was a long one.
What the heck was that?
Do you know System of a Down?
I think.
So that's Aerials.
I'm gonna have to listen to the real song. That it was good.
Thanks.
But I had no idea who the heck that was.
I've been feeling like an angsty teen lately, so I've been going back and listening to
grunge,
a bunch of stuff that I listened to when I was in high school.
Yeah,
and that came on last night on my way home from Walmart, mm-hmm. and I literally just sang it over the top of it while it was playing, and I was like, "This is perfect.
This is gonna work. I'm doing this." That's awesome.
I didn't even have to think about it. Yeah, so I wrote it down really quick because I was like, I'm definitely gonna forget this.
So yeah, this is crazy tech.
This is crazy tech,
and that was your song.
And that was my song.
Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to?
Sure. I'm just gonna brag about my wife's new car.
Sick.
Because new cars are crazy. So the first new car I ever bought was my 14 Outback, upgraded from my 03 Escape. Mm-hmm. A lot happens in 11 years.
Couple things.
Yeah. And so I just bought the base model, mm-hmm. Outback, and I remember when we went on the test drive, I'm like, so tell me about some of the features. And the guy's like, well, this is the base model, so there aren't any.
And you're like, well, son of a bitch.
And I go, well, I can tell by looking at the steering wheel I have Bluetooth in this car. And he's like, oh yeah, that's standard. And I was like, I'm driving an 03 Escape. Tell me things. And he was like, oh, okay. And so
they didn't have Bluetooth back then, mister.
Yeah. Colloidal silver wasn't affecting us. And so even in the 5 years, since we bought mm-hmm. our last cars, and we didn't go base model, admittedly, but my wife didn't have a base model before.
Right.
Like she had the nav package mm-hmm. and all of that. It's just crazy. So backup cameras are standard now.
Yes.
Which I didn't know.
2015, I think, is when they made them standard.
So that's pretty cool.
It's awesome.
The car has a wireless charger built into it.
That's the only reason you bought it.
It's not the only reason I bought it.
You're obsessed with the Qi chargers.
I am obsessed with the Qi chargers, but that's pretty cool.
I need a new Qi charger, and this one comes with wheels. Sick. Taking it.
What's funny about that, though, is I was trying to show it off to my mom because she didn't even know that wireless charging was a thing.
Yeah.
You can't use it with the doors open, I found out.
Oh, really?
And so she's standing in the driver door, and it's not working.
You're like...
The car's literally 40 hours old.
Technology.
Yeah. And so, anyway, that's pretty cool. It has the proximity key with push button start.
Oh my gosh.
Which my wife's car had.
Okay, so she already had that.
So we knew about that, right? Well, the proximity key also, when you walk up to the back of the car, mm-hmm. it beeps once, the lights flash, you wait three whole seconds, and the lift gate just opens.
Nice.
So we were walking out after grocery shopping last weekend. We each got a baby in one arm and 3 or 4 bags of groceries in the other, and we just walk up and we wait 3 seconds, and then we set the groceries in.
Nice.
So,
3 seconds is a good time.
Yeah.
Because you have to be intentionally standing there. Because just standing there will feel like a while.
It feels awkward.
Yeah.
But so when you're walking up to the back of the car just to get in it, like it'll beep and the lights will flash, and by the time you get to the rear door on either side, like it's done. And it's like, okay, you're not trying to get in the back. So it's plenty of time to get around and do whatever you would normally be doing without accidentally cueing it.
Right.
And then the other thing that I think is super cool, you have this on your car, but it has, it's not a GM, so it doesn't have OnStar, but it has Blue Link. And so there was an app that we downloaded that you can remote start the car from your phone. But you can also set the temperature in the car from the same app. Yeah.
That is cool.
And so my wife is near religious about turning off the ventilation when she gets out of the car.
Oh, really?
Yep. Someone told her when she first started driving that it was hard on the engine when you start it up, so she always turns it off.
Well, yeah, back in 90. Yeah. I had a car that you had to turn the air off to get up a hill.
Oh, jeez. Right. And so, anyway, a normal remote start would not do her any good.
Right.
Because she always turns everything off. But you can actually, go in and set, hey, it's really hot today. I want it to be 67 when I get in the car or whatever. So that's kind of cool, too.
That is awesome. Yeah. Technology definitely has come a long way. And I think that with the car industry, it has been pushed even faster.
Yeah.
Over the last, 3-4 years.
Because there's so many options.
Yeah.
And
everybody wants all these options.
I meant there's so many options of make and model.
Yes.
But then, everybody wants these options on their car.
Yeah.
And so every manufacturer is forced into this competition.
Yep.
And it's
if you
great
don't offer
for us.
them, then you're not going to sell your vehicle.
Right.
So.
Right.
Well, that is awesome. You're going to have to show me that car sometime. My crazy tech is, there's a company called DJI, and they're kind of known for making drones.
DJ Infinity.
Not the same.
Oh, okay.
But yeah. But DJI has made drones. They make the Mavic drone, and
I've heard of that.
Yeah, so it's got the little camera on it, flies around, videotapes people doing things, and people get mad at it, try to shoot it out of the sky.
Yeah, all that.
Yeah, all those, all the time. But so they're known for drones and camera shots with drones and built-in cameras on their drones. They came out with this little bitty camera that had a gimbal on it not too long ago. And it was pretty cool, did some pretty neat things. There were some flaws on it, but size-wise, it was really cool for traveling. Mm-hmm. But they're now in the action camera market, and they have a new one that they came out with called the DJI Osmo Action. And it's going to compete with GoPro. So this thing's pretty cool. It's got, it's $350 to start. So it's cheaper than the GoPro Hero 7 Black, which is the top end line.
Yeah.
So this thing comes with 2 screens, a screen on the front and a screen on the back, which
nice.
is really cool because whenever you're setting something up, typically with an action camera, you're going to get, if you hold it out arm's length, you're going to have, it's going to record you, right? But sometimes you might have the angle, if you're walking, you might have it where it's just right at the top of your head or right at the bottom. With that front screen, you can constantly see what you're capturing.
Nice.
And so you can kind of frame in your picture.
Yeah.
Or if you put it on a tripod and you're standing by it, you can kind of see, I've got this tree in the background or got this thing over here.
Yeah.
So that helps. The back screen is a touch screen and it's quite a bit bigger. So you can navigate through it. If you're familiar with the way GoPro has done their cameras since the 5, they've been touchscreen also. And so it operates similar to that. It does 4K video, but it also does 4K HDR video, which is something that I don't believe the GoPros do. So the HDR is going to give you more crisp colors, pull in more light. And in an example video that I saw of somebody using this, they said that it's not very good stability-wise in the HDR mode, but it's really good if you have it on a tripod and you want those vivid colors.
Well, that makes sense. If you're going to get something super crisp, it's not going to be great in movement.
Right. So
I thought that 4K and HDR were the same.
No, you can get, like with TVs, you can get 4K TV, but if it's not 4K HDR, 4K HDR is going to look 10 times better than 4K.
Interesting.
Yeah, so HDR is separate. So 4K HDR video is pretty crazy. You can do 4K at 60 frames per second, which is pretty fast. I mean, I know whenever I typically record, I record anywhere from 24 to 30. It's kind of the standard video. If you wanted to get kind of more action shots, some people will record at 60 frames just because it's capturing more of it. So it can go up to that. That's pretty neat. It's got 8 times slow motion, so you can do 240 frames per second, I think is what it's called.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, typical like slow motion that you find on your phones and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's waterproof up to 11 meters, which is
deeper than I want to go.
Yeah. And you don't have to have a special case on it or anything for that. It's just the unit itself. It has 2 microphones that try to cancel out wind noise, and it does a fairly good job. But I think you could put little wind muffs on them, like I do with my GoPro Hero 4. And
dead cats?
Yep, dead cats, and it would cancel out all that. But the big thing with this camera is rock steady. It's their stabilization setting that's similar to the GoPro Hero 7 Black that you do not need a gimbal for. So with this camera and the GoPro Hero 7, with the way that they're doing the software on the fly for stabilization, it's so smooth. It's super crisp smooth on mountain bikes and everything.
That's so crazy to me.
It's super nice. I would love to just not have a gimbal.
Right.
And be able to do something like this.
Right.
And that's where all these are going. So in 3 years, the low-end camera will have this technology on it.
Right.
So, but for $350,
yeah,
that's pretty good.
And when you consider that the $350 gets you your gimbal also.
Yeah, exactly. It's all factored in. Now.
Oh, okay. So, perspective.
Yeah.
So the first picture on this website we're looking at is just the camera by itself. And I'm like, man, that lens is huge. And how big is this camera? And then you scroll down and there's someone holding it and it's teeny tiny.
Yeah. And here's the thing with that lens, which is...
That front screen looks to be about the size of your session. Do you think?
No, I think it's smaller.
You think it's smaller?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I think these cameras are so tiny.
Yeah.
I mean, if you held your hand up like that, he's got it about
an inch and a half apart.
Yeah, I mean, they're so tiny,
so
and that's how GoPros are too. Like you look at a GoPro, like in a picture, and you think, "Oh, that's going to be like."
I don't want to wear that.
Yeah,
yeah.
But then you see them in person, you're like, "Whoa, that is small." But that lens, what's really cool about this lens is that you can remove that lens and you can actually put I believe they're called ND filters on them. And so essentially if you know that you're going to be in a particular lighting area, you can unscrew that lens and screw on a new filter cover for it, and it'll give you whatever
like
filter.
A professional photographer.
Right, yeah. So you can buy, like for GoPros, you can buy third party like lens replacements, but from what I've gathered, it's not really meant to pop off and pop back on. Like you have to put it on, and then it's going to take a little bit for you to get that off of there.
Interesting.
With this, you could just carry these filters in your little bag, and then you could unscrew it, and then screw on a new one, and you'd be good to go. But yeah, this is pretty awesome. I love seeing competition out there with GoPro. because GoPro's kind of in an area where they dominate the market and they can control the price of their top-end cameras, which their cameras aren't very expensive in the big scheme of things, but this one is such a good price. Oh, that's the other thing this one has. This one has
time-lapse?
It's like a time-lapse, but it's I want to say it's called hyperlapse. And GoPro has this too, so essentially you can be sitting there recording in this hyperlapse mode and just going forward, and it's taking video, but then it converts it into this like what looks to be a time lapse. So it looks like you've literally took this image and like you're going through this through a time lapse. It's pretty wild. It takes the complication out of making a time lapse.
Gotcha.
Where with most time lapses, you had to actually have the camera sitting on like a tripod.
Right.
With this hyperlapse stuff, you can actually be moving. So you could be moving through a crowd, like this example here. They're moving on like what looks to be like some sort of a tram or a bus.
Yeah.
And it's recording it, and it's capturing it, processing it the proper way it should. So yeah, that's pretty neat. It's neat to see other competitors out there kind of pushing the limits of action cameras.
It's always good to give the leader of the pack a little push.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot more.
So even if GoPro stays the leader, like the fact that there's other good viable options out there is that's good.
It's a good thing.
Yep.
Well, I think that'll do it for us.
All right.
You got anything else?
Nope.
All right. Why don't you tell them where they can find us?
Guys, you can find us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere else you find podcasts. We've got a website, lunchtimetechtalk.com. You can browse show notes and listen to past episodes. We've got a Facebook and an Instagram at Lunchtime Tech Talk. We've got a Twitter at Lunchtime Tech T1. You can find me and follow me at MSUMAC. That's MSUMACC. We've also got a Patreon page, so you can check that out. Mike, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at run_bike_Mike, and you can find me on Instagram at runbikemike and YouTube at runbikemike.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for having lunch with us.
Bye.
Bye.